Welcome everyone, happy Tuesday. Hope you are doing well today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join this webinar. It's top of the hour, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm Reneika Lightbourne, and I'm truly delighted to have our very special guest, Ms. Jasmine Willois. Jasmine is the president of the Note Assistance Program, and she's trained well over 600 entrepreneurs to be able to properly invest in notes, mortgage notes. So Jasmine, thank you again for being our speaker today. So Jasmine's going to cover, how to go about building your mortgage note portfolio, some of the importance of cash flowing, some of the different types of note investing, and then of course, how to go about getting educated on note investing. Before I turn it over, I just want to give you just a quick high-level overview of what self-directing is, some of the different options in terms of the account types, and how you can go about getting started with us. If you have questions, put those in the questions box, but we'll kind of carve out some time at the very end to get those answered for you. Again, I'm Reneika Lightbourne. I'm one of the business development specialists here at Advanta. I've been with Advanta as an employee for about 2 years now, but I'm also a client of Advanta. I personally have my self-directed IRA account with Advanta. I've been doing it for about 4 years. So if you have questions, you want to talk about your exact scenario, don't hesitate to give me a call, send me an email. I'm here to help. And then, of course, I would encourage you to visit our website at advantaira.com. It's a great resource, anything and everything related to self-directing. So just a little history on Advanta and who we are. So we've been in the business for about nearly 20 years now, and we are recognized as one of the leading self-directed IRA administrators. We take great pride in providing our clients that high quality concierge style service. Our headquarters is located in Largo, Florida, which is the Tampa Bay area. We do have an office in Atlanta, which is where I'm located, but we have clients nationwide as we now have almost $2 billion under our administration. One of our commitments is providing you, great educational content that have, experts and renowned speakers and educators like Jasmine. So 3 key takeaways from today's high level of self-directing. Know that any IRA or former employer plan qualifies. With self-directing, you're always in control, so you choose the investment that works best for you. In today's case, we're going to be talking about mortgage notes, so you get to choose that investment. 3, just knowing that all of the expenses associated with that investment, so with notes, any expenses related to it, servicing will be paid by the IRA. Any of the income generated from that investment, so the mortgage, monthly payments will flow back into that IRA account. Just a little housekeeping. At Advanta, we don't give any tax, legal, or investment advice. All of the information presented today is just educational purposes. So we continue to encourage you to, always do your due diligence and always consult with your professional team. So exactly what is a self-directed IRA? In its simplest form, it just means that you as the account holder decides, what is it that your retirement funds, where does the fund goes? What do you invest in? You literally control everything. You choose the investment that works best for your IRA. And then, of course, with self-directing, you get to diversify your account by investing in the likes of, real estate. So whether it's a fix and flip or private equities, like investing in a startup company or, a syndication, you can use IRA funds to invest in the likes of oil and gas or, digital assets. And then, of course, today we're going to be focusing specifically on notes and mortgages. So why do people choose to self-direct? You can look to self-direct for any number or combination of reasons. If you have funds that's sitting, in an old 401k just sitting idle, you can put that to work without having to, take out a personal loan or, tap into your savings. Another reason why you may choose to self-direct is the ups and downs for the stock market. As a note investor, that mortgage note is tied to that real estate, is tied to real estate. So it's collateralized. We know with real estate, it always holds value. And then, of course, the tax benefits, having those rents, those profits, those mortgage payments flow back into your IRA account, tax-free or tax-deferred, depending on the type of account that you have. In terms of the different types of accounts that can be self-directed, the same accounts that you're already familiar with, like the traditional IRA or Roth IRA. If you are self-employed, have a small business or side business, you can self-direct a SEP, simple or solo 401k. The solo 401k has great flexibilities, have higher contribution limits. So a lot of times real estate investors like that as an option. You can self-direct any former employer plan, like an old 401k, 403b, TSP, or a pension plan. And then smaller accounts like the ESAs to cover educational related expenses, HSAs for medical related expenses. If you have multiple accounts, you can look to partner those accounts together to make investments. The main thing that you want to remember is the contribution levels amount varies between the different accounts. And then with your Roth account, your distribution is tax-free at retirement as long as you're at the 59 and a half retirement age and you've had that account for at least 5 years. When you're ready to get started with us, we really keep that streamlined in 3 simple steps for you. Step 1, open up an account. You can go to our website, advantaira.com, to fill out the application, or you can work with myself or one of my colleagues to complete it via DocuSign. We'll walk you through that application process. Once your account is open with us, you do have an assigned account manager who's there to help you with filling out the investment paperwork. Step 2 is funding that account. You can make a cash contribution. If you have an existing IRA elsewhere, you can transfer whatever dollar amount that you need to make your investment. It's no tax liabilities for you to do so. Or if you have a former employer plan, you can do a direct rollover of those funds. And then finally, step 3, what is it that you want to invest in? Is it that mortgage note to where you get that cash flow, that passive income flowing back into your IRA account? And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Jasmine. So changing presenter, let me know if you receive it.
All right, can you hear me? All right.
Yes, I sure can.
Beautiful, at least we got that part worked out. And I do see an opportunity to show my screen. So hopefully you can see it.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you for having me. My name is Jasmine Willois. I'm the president of the Note Assistance Program, as Reneika mentioned earlier. And today we're going to talk about one of the initiatives that we're doing within our community called Invest, Profit, and Give. So we'll jump right in. Much like Reneika and Advanta, we have disclaimers. So we are here just to educate, let you know about this opportunity. To me, that's one of the greatest things, right? Many people had no idea that you can buy first edition mortgage notes, right? And no idea that the mortgages that they hold every time they get something in the mail saying, please, send your payment elsewhere, was an investor on the back end, right? So just education here. So education is provided, and you're going to end up to make up your own decisions. And that's why these things pair very well with self-directed IRAs. You'll notice that. Without a doubt, I want to just take time to say thank you to Reneika and Advanta. We look forward to getting out on the road with you guys as soon as this situation kind of thins out a little bit. In the meantime, we are very excited to be online with you guys, so much appreciated. I wanted to make sure we said that. Let's talk about what you expect to get out of this presentation, right? Always love setting some expectations. It's really indicative of how we work as a Note Assistance Program, right? Very clear and to the point. And today, I want to talk to you again about our IPG initiative, which stands for Invest, Profit, and Give. And so we're going to tell you a little bit about that. We're going to show you how to appreciate first edition mortgage notes and how we use them, and that's the tool that we invest in, right? So that's the I part. And then we're going to show you how we profit from those, right? And then what we do with some of that profit. And typically a lot of us in our program, outside of it, obviously going into our IRAs, we like to get back in some form or fashion. So Invest, Profit, Give, that's what this is about. Should be pretty short. Any questions you have, I believe we're going to hold to the end. But definitely stick around, and I will be happy to answer anything that may come to mind. All right, we have, this is, if you have an opportunity, you can put up your phone to this and you can take a picture of this. This will take you directly to our podcast. Again, talking about education. This is an educational podcast that will teach you from season 1, episode 1, all the way. And that's where we recommend you start about what is a note, and walk you through some of the note journeys of a lot of our members. So we're going to go here and really talk to you about what we do here at the Note Assistance Program. And our Invest, Profit, Give, it's an initiative based on the culture, as I mentioned, right? So the culture of our community is affectionately known as the NAP Nation. So that's what we call ourselves online, and that's what we call ourselves when we're hanging out with each other. And most of our members, we have a lot in common. We want to travel a lot, right? We look forward to not having to worry about our company matching that much when it comes to, because a lot of them still have jobs, right? And so you want to complement and make sure that your retirement is taken care of. So this initiative was started about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now. considering the pandemic. And what we want to do is we're going to help 5,000 families in the next 5 years reach their generational goals using mortgage notes. So it's 5K and 5Y. And through that, we've started by launching this program, and we're donating blankets to people every time we buy notes. And we'll talk about that a little bit further as we go along. So let's talk about one of our most heartfelt and passionate missions here, which is to let no retirement account go underfunded. And that's one of the things that happens, right? The volatility of the stock market, which many of us are involved with one way or the other, although I do like the index funds, right? But outside of being exposed to those, what other opportunities do you have to take control of your retirement? And so the self-directed IRA is one of the things that we pair very well with and that we're very passionate about, because we love, again, having the ability to use our own expertise, the things that we may, be able to invest in. And so that's the other portion about it. Most of us really have no idea what's going on with the stock market. How do I know? I worked on Wall Street for about 6 years. Small boutique firm called Joseph Stevens, right there on Maiden Lane, across from the Federal Reserve Building. Picked up by Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, just to age myself a little bit. That's what they used to be called. And then I worked for them out of downtown San Francisco, the financial district, right? And so what I can tell you is that the stock market in its pure form is really hard for most people to grasp. And no matter how many screens you have, right, and how good you are with your technical analysis, that it's probably better to be involved with something like bonds and or mortgage notes, or something that you're more familiar with, like real estate. So that's what we're here to talk about. Our mission to let no retirement account go underfunded. And that's why we're paired here with Advanta IRA. She just showed you a numerous amount of ways and the accounts that you can use to help fund your retirement account. So let's go forward and talk about what we invest in, right? We talked about first position mortgage notes. So that's really our specialty around here. Not second positions, not thirds, although they have those, right? HELOCs, believe it or not, all those things are pretty much transferable. It's all in the language of the contract. And so transferable means that the bank or the lender or the originator has the opportunity to sell it should they need to liquidate it. And that's one of the reasons why this market is so fluid and so profitable. So let's talk about what we are really, this is a nutshell. I'm going to do a quick synopsis of what we do with these mortgage notes, right? And so at the end of the day, we will teach you here at the program how to source these notes. And by that, we mean where to find these mortgage notes. Obviously, you can't just walk into Bank of America and say, hey, can I get some of your first edition mortgage notes for sale? That might get security called on you, right? All jokes aside. But so you want to make sure that you know who to call and where to source these things, right? So we have a lot of sourcing opportunities. Not to mention that our trade desk here, where we release between $20 to $80 million worth of inventory on a monthly basis to our members, but also the due diligence, right? How do you do the due diligence, and how do you make an offer, right? The negotiation part on a non-performing note. Okay, never mind a performing note. How do you make an offer, a profitable offer, which you'll make money on a note that's not performing? So a lot of people want to ask so many questions surrounding that. We have tons of podcasts addressing why a bank would sell a note, whether it's performing or non-performing. We also have podcasts kind of giving you a clue on what we do for the due diligence side of it, right? What I can tell you, like most investments, a majority of your due diligence is done on the front end in this industry. So we're going to teach you how to purchase these things, and then what you'll have to go through in order to make money off of these. So there's over 15 different exit strategies here. There's over 15 different exit strategies that you can go through. And with that said, we're going to walk you through them here with your first note. So with the 15 different exit strategies, you can either reperform, right? Get them reperforming, all the way down to what most of us are used to is getting the actual asset in hand, which will be a retail and wholesale that to the retail market, right? Or you can make it, renovate it, which a lot of our members try to do with that asset, and then put it to the retail market. So a lot of different strategies there, including seller financing. Some of you may be familiar with that. What you will understand is once you do foreclose, if that is necessary, you will get the notice of default and everything sent out legally, and then you will take possession and you will be the owner of the property. And that's why you can go and take advantage of these other exit strategies should that be something of interest. So this is what we invest in, first position mortgage notes here, just to get you familiar with what we do. If you have a second, I can put this video on. I don't know if you can hear the audio on it, but I wanted you to kind of see what we do for our investors here. It's a little claymation we put together. talks about how we work with accredited investors to use bank notes. So while I was going through this, what I would like to let you know is that we do provide bank notes, so notes from hedge funds or small or larger banks, credit unions, and things of that nature. So that's one of the other differences between us and a lot of other programs, is that the notes that we source are going to be from a lot of the public entities out there that you may or may not be familiar with, right? And we can talk to you about those at a later date. But that's what we choose to invest in versus private notes, right? Notes that are created at some of your RIAs or by your neighbor or other investors that are doing a lot of seller financing on their own, right? So we do create some of those on the back end, but our main product is going to be to buy notes from the banks. So let's talk about the profit portion of this. How do we make money off of those said investments? Jasmine, you're telling me you're buying notes from the bank, and whether they're performing or non-performing, meaning whether they've made payments, are making payments, or haven't made a payment in the last 2 to 3, 5 years. You're still buying these notes. So the answer is yes. So here are some examples of how we profit off of the assets we just showed you that we're investing in, which are the first position mortgage notes. And so here we have an asset in Taylor, Michigan. This was purchased in October 2019 as a non-performing note. Purchase price was around $13,000. And the total payoff that we received in December of 2020, so about a year later, was a $29,706. So this is a situation where we purchased a non-performing note. After title and everything was settled, that's what takes the majority of that time, and you're able to get everything clean. We reached out to the borrower and let them know that we were looking to move forward with either removing them from the property, right? Or allowing them to exercise bringing the loan current or paying us off completely and just getting the deed and walking away. Because remember, none of us really want or have interest in a house in Taylor, Michigan. We're buying the mortgage note. And so one of the interesting things about this is that you can put this in a self-directed IRA. Like Reneika said, all that money is going to go right back into your account. So you spend about $13,000, and a year later, $29,000 is going to come back into your self-directed IRA. You're ready to go off and buy a new asset of any sort. But in a year's time, it's rare to see that happen from, a company matching or things of that nature. So this is why people are excited about using these non-performing notes in their self-directed IRA. Should they have, $50,000, $60,000 sitting around, this is an opportunity for them to get in and learn how to put these vehicles or these assets inside their vehicles of choice. This one was done in a LLC, so you can do these outside as well. Let's go to the second one. We made profit here. This is a non-performing note out of Dayton, Ohio. So these are nationwide notes. And what you'll learn with our program is how best to invest in these assets in different states and jurisdictions, right? So all that comes along with the training. Very important piece of this. This is a non-performing note. The monthly payment was $355, and they purchased this again for around $13,000. So the average purchase price of a note in this community is between $15,000 and $25,000. So not too much. Total UPB on this was $24,000. So they end up getting this thing reperforming. It's still performing to this day. So now within their IRA, they laid out $13,000, and they're getting a payment for $355 every month. Cash on cash return estimated around 28% going into their IRA, right? This is a good opportunity to use that as well. One of our last examples is here in Gunabel, Texas. Like I said, nationwide here. These things are going to vary from prices and values of the underlying assets to, the unpaid balance. So this one was bought in 2018 as a non-performing note. UPB, which stands for the unpaid balance, the amount of debt that they purchased, and they paid $35,000 for it. At the end of the day, this is one that was renovated, so they actually took possession of this property, added another $60,000 to what they spent to renovate it, and they sold it for $166,000. So this one took a little bit longer, right? Because they chose to renovate it. So over 2 years' time, they walked away with this type of ROI. Again, things of this nature can be taken advantage of. This one would be outside of your IRA because of so much work they did. unless you're going to hire people, but you want to be as hands-off as possible, and Reneika can tell you more about that. Good questions for her. Last thing I'll show you is a portfolio of about 8 performing notes that was just taken down. So things like this are what some of the bigger guys do in our community. We're looking to replace their income. And so this guy purchased about $3,200 a month worth of income. We like to say it's the equivalent of a job at, Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's, right? $40,000 a year, and he just doesn't have to show up to work every day. And so he's got about $3,200 coming into him, his portfolio now. He total purchase amount was $192,000. So the value of the portfolio, as far as the value of the underlying assets, as you can see, we have some in California, North Carolina, Nevada, one here in Las Vegas. There's a little over $1 million. So this is one of the reasons why people would get involved. It's going to be getting cash flow on these for the next 13 years on average. Some of these, as you can see, expire in 20. He's got another 20 years on them, so it's a good cash flow opportunity. So talking about the giving portion of this, as we wrap this up, we are working closer with Sackcloth and Ashes. And one of the things we're going to do, as I mentioned earlier, blanket the United States. So Bob Dalton is is the CEO of this company, Sackcloth and Ashes. Please check them out. You can also go to our website, sackclothandashes.com, and noticeassistanceprogram.com, and check out our blankets and things and learn more about the initiative here. Here's an opportunity for you can see what we do is that every time a member buys a note from our trade desk, we donate one to a local homeless shelter, and they also get one themselves, right? So we've committed to doing 500 blankets this year, and that's very exciting for us because we are looking forward to, again, helping Bob Dalton meet his goal of blanketing over 1 million blankets by 2022. So we're excited to be a part of that program and hope you guys would look forward to doing it as well. Some really, really good mod blankets, as he calls them. So while we're keeping our eyes open for call assist support, we have our eye on something in Houston that we may take part in. We just opened an office there in Houston for those of you who are out in that area. But do reach out to Latrice Service, who's in the chat room, or can be found elsewhere at 855-541-6683. We can tell you more about you can tell us more, about some of the things that you would like us to donate to, right? So that we have many different members who would like to donate to many different things. That's it for me right there. This is our podcast right here, Naked Notes. We can learn more about what we do. It's found everywhere. But Reneika, that's all I've got for you.
Thank you, Jasmine. I do have some questions that came in. So just bear with me one second. So first question I have is, do you have meetings that are open to the general public that someone's able to join to learn more about your community?
Yes, of course we do, especially in this current environment. We have a few Zoom meetings that are open to the public. So one is called our Coffee and Notes. That's the first Saturday of every month. So that one just passed. And then we have a Lunch and Learn that's going to be open to the public as well. So as mentioned, you can just go to as she has up there, any of the email or just even text us your information, and we can send you the links where you can join at your convenience. But we do have at least 2 to 3 monthly meetings via Zoom. And as soon as we can, we'll be back in person. 4 times a year, we also teach educational-wise. So 2-day events that we teach. We just started in Houston. And if things go well, we'll be teaching in New York City in October. So we can talk more about that as well at the number she puts up there.
Okay, so I have a couple more questions. Based on the example or the case study that you showed, did the person buy out the note, the first example? So the question is, did the person buy out the note for that first example that you gave in Ohio?
Oh, yes. So just to make sure I understand the question, because this is actually a common misunderstanding that I just realized just recently when I was out in Texas. But yes, when you purchase whatever your offer is, and it's typically around 55, 65 cents on the dollar for a non-performing note, as you may have noticed, right? So that $13,000 was, for a note where the UPB was really close to $30,000. Once you pay that $13,000, you own the entire. They sign everything over to you, the QCD, the debt, the promissory note. You are full owner. You step in the shoes of the bank. You get to pick up the phone and call the borrower and say, what are we going to do about the $27,000? Actually, including late fees, that's the $35,000 that you owe me, right? So at some point it goes, you get to figure out how you're going to get that balance back. which is a trade balance. So yes, you do buy out the entire loan. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, next question is why would an investor pick a non-performing note?
Well, it's really about whether you're looking for cash flow or capital gains. As you can see in some of the examples, that first one, for example, in Taylor, Michigan, he picked a non-performing note for 13,000, then he got back 29, right? So it's for that capital gain that he got in a year. So it's really about putting yourself in the middle of a contract that's existing, and there's something of value in between. And that's the genius of this, right? Is you really have to start understanding the value of contract and contract law. And when you do, that's when it'll ding, it'll go off. And there's a lot of non-performing contracts that you now get to go and position yourself and say, hey, you guys made this agreement 7, 10 years ago, but yeah, I'm involved now. What do you want to do about it, right? And you pay for it at discounted price because you're going to be the one that's going to work through all that legal paperwork that the original person really not too excited about doing because they didn't want to be here in the first place. So they sell to you at a discount, and you are now the one that gets the legal team to go in, and that's what we teach you to do here. But now you go in and say, what are we going to do about this defaulted contract?
Okay, so next question is, does the note assistance program only work with accredited investors?
For the most part, the answer is yes. What I would have you do is reach out to Latrice so I can explain to you what the nuances are between that, right? What I can tell you about this program is that, and about this product, I should say more importantly, is that it's not hard to become an accredited investor when you really look at it. So you may be surprised if you are or not. So we have all the details of what it takes to be considered accredited, and we can walk you through that if you reach out to us at the number.
Okay, next question is, do you partner with investors, meaning you secure or supply the portfolio, no portfolio, and the person supply the funds, the investor?
So none of our executive team actually JVs, if that's what you're asking, joint ventures with our clients or members, where we have a community of over 600 people that are willing to joint venture with people and do it quite actively within our community because there are notes that have larger UPBs and or just people looking to leverage their money, if that makes sense.
Okay. Next question is, how do you decide what market to invest in, or what are some of your criteria that you're thinking of before you actually invest? So whether it's Ohio, Texas, or someplace else.
It's mostly, and what we'll teach you here is to do based on the numbers, right? So once you get familiar with the process, obviously, if it makes you feel comfortable, there's a lot of assets that will be closer to areas that you may be familiar with. So a lot of people live in Michigan, so there might be assets in their area, never really in your backyard, but at least in area people that you have family with, or you may be accustomed to the real estate market. And so the two things that we use most importantly are going to be the budget sheet, right? Is there enough equity in this based on what we can get the note for to make all this arduous work worth it, right? We're going to have to go and take everybody to task or have our attorney do it, put more to say. We're going to have to factor in all that cost and see if that makes sense. So really it's about equity. After that, it's going to be about, whether it's a lender-friendly state or not, if that makes sense. So Florida, for example, I don't advise you to get involved for your first note because it's not necessarily lender-friendly. It could take you up to 5 years to get through that state. And really, unless you're really seasoned, you don't win. There's a lot of equity you don't want to spend 5 years trying to fight over mortgage, right?
Okay. Next question is, what is a servicing company, and how do I have to have a servicing company once I buy a note?
So yes, great question. And servicing companies are required, especially since Dodd-Frank in 2008. The servicing company are the vendors that will actually communicate with the borrower on your behalf, right? So just imagine if you bought a couple notes, 2, 3, or 4, even if you only have one. It's one of the mistakes a lot of people make to save themselves, $20, $30 a month. But the services person is going to reach out and say, hey, you're late on your payment. And so that's going to make it a more professional transaction and also more compliant. So they're the one to do the compliance for you. And so the short answer is yes, you need to have a servicer as long as you still have a loan. Once you do the foreclosure or the cancellation of the contract, whatever you do, then you no longer need a servicer. Now you just have an asset.
Okay. Another question is, how long will it take, or how long will I have to close on a note?
Well, the entire process usually takes about 7 days, 7 to 9 days, the way we teach you, if you can use our waterfall of due diligence. But other than that, if you mean literally from contract, once you get a contract, it's about 3 days. If you're working with a self-directed IRA, a lot of them are more friendly and familiar with this note investment and this asset class. And so like Advanta, they can make it happen within that time frame. But if not, you just let us know that you're working with a self-directed IRA, and we will make sure that we let the seller know so she can.
Okay, a two-part question is, what is your view or landscape of the real estate? What is your view or landscape on real estate and note investing? Is there enough, and also is there enough inventory available?
Well, if you can still hear me, yeah, inventory, that's one of my favorite questions because it never hits you until you really understand what side of the fence you're on. And so right now there's over $12 million worth of, 12 million loans in forbearance right now that the banks have, which are our vendors, people we get our sellers, we get our inventory from. So just imagine that they don't have the capacity to process that or the desire to deal with those people. So that inventory is coming down the pipeline. But overall, yeah, the volume of the mortgage industry that's created with the banks is really, it's really amazing. So there's trillions of dollars created, and so we don't think there's going to be shortage in that aspect. Second question, as far as real estate, I don't know if it seems pretty vague, so I'm not sure if I'll address it correctly. But you know, banks just once you're the bank, you tend to make money, especially if you position yourself correctly, whether the times are good or bad. So if I was referring to whether we think the recession's coming or things are going to continue in a good manner, we're positioned so well that it tends to not matter. What I can tell you is that inventory as a whole has a shortage of that right now in America for people and places to live. So us being able to bring some of the shadow inventory, we're still able to make profits. A lot of us made money in the middle of the pandemic, if you really look at some of those dates.
Okay. Question is, what are some of the other exit strategies? You said that there's 15. What are some of the other ones?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Question is, what are some of the other exit strategies? You mentioned that there are 15 possible exit strategies.
Okay, I understand. So exit strategies will include getting a full payoff like we just demonstrated, become reperforming, and now all of a sudden you have a non-performing note, which you thought you're never going to get a payment on, and now they're making payments on, so you end up getting pretty decent return, often double digits. You can go through reinstatement, where they can actually pay you everything that's owed, right? And so that's usually a good portion of what you actually invested. And then you can try, there's also opportunities for you to foreclose on it, right? So if you foreclose on the property, now you own the asset. And once you own the asset, now you can turn it into a rental for your own self. You can go ahead and like the other person did, or you can wholesale it, which is one of the things that we recommend people do, that they wholesale it to, you know, to the people out there like the fortune builders and places like that where they are very hungry for inventory. So really, yes, there's a list of about 15 of them. I don't mind providing them to you. We do talk about that in our note lab, but that would cover a good majority.
Okay, so the next question is, you mentioned a trade desk. What is a trade desk?
So that would be where we house all of our inventory and how we get it out to our members. Okay, and so my job within the company is to go out and meet banks and get their form relationships with them, I should say, and so they trust to and feel comfortable letting us peruse their inventory, meaning their defaulted loans or their performing notes. Once I do that, then I'm going to send it to our trade desk, and that is where we're going to disperse all the inventory and the pricing, and all the negotiations go down between our members and the banks. So in our program, you're going to negotiate directly with the banks through our trade desk. We're just the middleman, because as you can imagine, there's a little bit of, you know, uncomfortability with the banks selling these notes to the average investor, and there's a little hesitation from the investor dealing with banks. And so that's what we do, is we facilitate that relationship at the trade desk.
Okay, another question is, will my note investment strategy change based upon market condition?
Well, the funny part about note strategies is that you're really going to have to be very flexible, so they may change just based upon what the borrower decides to do, right? So many times, as mentioned, I may go and grab a note. This is a true story. We had one in North Carolina where the borrower had not paid for over 10 years, so we got the note for really inexpensive. And so we just figured we were just going to take possession of the property, and out of nowhere, the borrower came around. And so instead of me getting possession of the property, I got a full payoff, right? So strategy had to change, and I had to be flexible in doing that. So really, what we teach you here, and the reason you get these opportunities for these profits is that you're open to, profiting one way or the other, and you know that there are many ways, but you really can't dictate how a loan is going to, you can guess, right, but how a loan's going to actually work out in the end. And again, with that Taylor, Michigan one, we had no idea that they were going to pay us off. We thought we were going to get possession of the house. But they said, hey, no, we have someone that's going to give us some money to pay you off. And we said, okay. And next thing you know, we got a call. So it's all very unpredictable.
Okay, another question is, does it make sense to modify a note in some circumstances of non-performing notes and avoid foreclosure, possession, or repaid and sale or resale?
Oh, 100%. And as a matter of fact, within our community, that's one of the things we prefer to do. So we try to treat, and we vow to treat, let me say more importantly, every homeowner with self-respect and dignity that they deserve, right? And so if someone has the opportunity to truly reinstate, right, and make payments or, come current on their loan, then we allow them to do that, right? We're not in the business of taking people's homes. And so what we do now is we have a performing note. And what you will find is that within our community, at least, never mind out there in the average investor community, that there's a huge thirst for people looking for performing notes. So if you can actually get a note performing, you don't have to hold on to it for the next 20, 30 years, okay? You can go ahead and sell it to someone else who's looking for that cash flow in their IRA. They just want to make sure that the story's straight and they know what they're buying. And that is one of the benefits you will have because you are the one that did the workout for the note, right?
Okay, next question is, you mentioned you don't invest in second position, or do you?
No, I do not specifically invest in first position. Our program is only training you on first position mortgage loan investing, and that's the only assets on our trade desk. So first position.
First position only. Why wouldn't you invest in a second position? It's a follow-up question to it.
Yeah, it's just really based upon who I am and as a founder of the company. So without getting too long-winded into that, I come from the background of day trading back in the dot-com era. And at the end of the day, I'm really more conservative than you'll find the average investor, right? And so second position is a little bit more risky. And in that, you typically got lower pricing. But for me, when I looked at this 10 years ago, one of the biggest advantages, never mind sole advantages, of second position was that they were less expensive. And I've been around the block long enough to know that less expensive doesn't last forever. So what you'll find is I need a little bit more reason to get involved with something of this nature without then the pricing was low, right? If I'm taking on the same risk, maybe even more risk and all that stuff, it didn't make sense to me. So it's just based upon my conservative nature and what we see fit for, the money that we're using. So that's the only answer. Other than that, it's a viable market and there's money to be made there. I just say be careful on pricing because it's rose and increased a lot.
Okay, another question is, do you teach about wraparounds?
Yes, in our advanced classes with our inner circle meetings. So as a matter of fact, we're going to be doing a inner circle meeting, a mastermind in Fallbrook in September. We're going to have a lot of people out there doing things like that and talking about JV. So once you get a hang of this and you really think this is for you, then you will be attending some of our inner circle meeting and mastermind groups and learning all about that stuff.
Okay, mastermind that's not open to the public, or is it?
Oh no, the inner circle masterminds are not open to the public. Those are for members and people with at least one note in their portfolio. So you have to have some sort of experience because it's going to be a lot of advanced training.
Okay, I think that covers most of the questions that came in. So Jasmine, I do want to say again, thank you so very much for being our speaker today, answering all of the questions that came in about note investing. for our audience, if you have specific questions about self-directing, how you can go about setting it up to eventually, purchase a note in your IRA, definitely feel free to, give me a call, send me an email. We can, allocate some time for you just to, start to finish in terms of what it is, how it works. Definitely, I would encourage you to continue to visit our website, check out our YouTube channel for other additional content. Jasmine, before I end the webinar, do you have any other closing comments?
Yes, I just want to say how excited I am that you had so many questions. And so it seems like there's a good thirst and, desire for education on this. So definitely look forward to working with you, Reneika, and setting up some accounts to get some more education on this. What I have found, and Reneika, you can correct me on this or talk to them about on an individual basis, but in certain cases, you can use your IRA funds to get some of this education in the background too, some of this business consulting done for that as well. So definitely reach out to us, and I see that you guys are excited about this, so we're open and we work together. Maybe Reneika and I can do something together soon to dive deeper into this.
Absolutely, looking forward to it. Happy investing, everyone.